So after the release of Inside Out 2, naturally I tend to surf YouTube looking at what other people thought of it. And it's really easy to say that it's a
great success.
But what shocked me the most was the amount of people saying that this is Pixar back on form, or Pixar finally having a hit. And it just made me think about how Pixar history of such amazing films have perhaps impacted its lesser films. And it just made me think about the Pixar history of their films, how the better films have perhaps impacted its lesser known films. And really, do we now just expect perfection from Pixar? Look, don't get me wrong, Inside Out 2 is easily one of their best films for a good bit of time. But that doesn't mean to say that their recent films before that haven't been good or successful. I actually recently did a collaboration video with Time Machine Geek talking about the entire history of Pixar, so I actually recommend watching his video. I will make sure to put it in the description box below. Look, I'm not here to say that all the recent Pixar films aren't without its flaws, but cut them some slack. In my opinion, the only outright bad film when it comes to Pixar is Cars 2. And even then, I know some people love Cars 2.
Something tells me you're not talking about souvenir bumper stickers.
But if you aren't a fan of some of the films that I mentioned in this video, then, you know, what do I know? It's my opinion at the end of the day. I'm just saying that in my opinion, the past few Pixar films haven't really been bad. The COVID-19 pandemic didn't help things either, with films like Soul, Luca, and Turning Red not even receiving a theatrical debut. Soul, in my opinion, is one of the most greatest Pixar movies, having one of the most incredible messages that I think almost people didn't want to hear. Sometimes the hardest truths can be a hard pill to swallow. A film that tells you to enjoy the little things in life can seem a little harsh to the dreamers in the audience, who really want purpose in their life. But that's the reason for me Soul is so special. It tells a very different message and story. Luca is a fine film with some unique animation, and it has an interesting story despite its flaws. And Turning Red was a film that you need to have certain interests in order to enjoy it. But Turning Red is easily one of the funniest of the Pixar movies. But are these films bad films? Absolutely not. I think we can all agree that Shrek hasn't been good since the second film, but with the announcements of Shrek 5 on the way, no one seems to be against it.
Fine! Go ahead! Run away! Who needs you?
So why do DreamWorks get a pass for giving us really mediocre films, but Pixar have to give us perfection to every film they do? Even before Soul, we have films like Onward, Incredibles 2, and Coco. Onward was fine, its only biggest flaw was that it relied very much on its celebrity casting, and it just needed more time in the oven to perfect. Incredibles 2 is an awesome sequel that reminds us that Pixar did superhero movies before superhero movies were even a thing. And even though Coco wasn't exactly my cup of tea, I understand why it's so loved, and it is a wonderful film. So where does the idea that Pixar being back on track come from? Pixar have definitely set a standard of film since they have come out, and while I think it's fair to hold that standard for them, I don't think it's fair to assume that every film should be held like that. For me, a huge film that a lot of people didn't like for stupid reasons was Lightyear. This was a film that got so much hate because of its choice to cast Chris Evans as Buzz Lightyear instead of Tim Allen, when if you know who voices Woody dolls in real life, then you would understand that it makes absolute sense to recast this character because, guess what? It's a different character.
Ha ha! Boy, am I glad to see you.
Is that you?
No, it's my brother Jim.
Lightyear tried to have some fun with the classic sci-fi action. The phrase "they don't make films like they used to" very much appeals to this film. Films like Lightyear, in which Pixar are just trying to do something different, is something I really appreciated from them. Don't get me wrong, Lightyear isn't without its flaws, but it is a cool sci-fi action film that isn't in the same genre or class as, say, Inside Out. Recently, after watching films like Sinbad, Titan AE, and even Chicken Run 2, seeing films that are trying to do something new, even though they aren't perfect, is always a good thing, and it is easily worth the risk. Even Elemental, Pixar's last film before Inside Out 2, turned out to be a huge success, and even though people did have some issues saying that the story is very predictable and it's kind of a story that they've seen a million times, even when Pixar stated that this is a film that is inspired by rom-coms of the 80s and 90s. Like Lightyear, Elemental tries to do something they have never done before. In this case, it's a pure love story about two characters who fall in love. Even though there are some very minor flaws, it's an incredible film that grossed $496.4 million at the box office. So with Inside Out 2 coming out and being a huge success, I was asked the question, are Pixar back? My answer? They never left. I know I sound like a die-hard fan who perhaps doesn't want to admit that his favorite company has failed or is failing, but with Pixar, looking back in all honesty, I don't think they ever have. When I look at the films that Disney have brought out, I see their downfall. Films like Wish and Frozen 2 are not a good sign. Even DreamWorks are in a better place these days, with films like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish being incredible, and the trailer for The Wild Robot looks outstanding. DreamWorks are clearly on an uprise when it comes to their films. I think Pixar have always produced incredible films. While all of them are not perfect, every single one of them has been a good film. Well, aside from one.
Do what?
So let me know in the comment section what are some of your thoughts on Pixar lately. Do you think we hold too much standard for them, or do you want perfection every time? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more great content on all things animation. And if you enjoyed this video, you will probably enjoy the video on screen that is being recommended to you. Who am I to argue with YouTube, I guess? But thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you all in the next one.